The thing about most compliments, they're forgettable. She's heard "you're gorgeous" or "nice smile" more times than she can count. They're pleasant, sure, but they dissolve the moment they land. They're surface level, routine, safe. But then there are compliments that don't fade. They linger. Not because they're louder, but because they're real. These are the kind of words that make her stop and feel seen, not just noticed. Here's the difference. Most guys praise what's visible. Few recognize what's rare. When you reflect something about her that isn't obvious, something emotional, thoughtful, or deeply personal, you create a moment she won't forget. You shift from being another voice in the crowd to the one person who really paid attention. Think of it like this. In a gallery full of people admiring the colors of a painting, you're the one who notices the story hiding in the shadows. That's the compliment that hits differently. It's not about admiration, it's about understanding. And that is unforgettable. Now, I want to be clear here. This isn't about manipulation. It's about awareness. When a man develops the ability to observe not just a woman's appearance, but her essence, the way she thinks, moves, reacts, holds her energy, he taps into something magnetic, something rare. And that awareness makes her feel both exposed and safe all at once. It makes her wonder, how did he see that in me when others never do? Let's say you're talking to a woman, and instead of saying, "You look good tonight," you say, "You give off this calm confidence, like you're not trying to impress anyone," and that's kind of rare these days. Boom. That's not just a compliment, that's a reflection. You're telling her you see something in her that others overlook. And the truth is, every woman has something unique she wishes people would notice. When you do, it's electric. Most people think the key to attraction is showing off or being extra clever, but what if I told you it's actually in your ability to tune in? In a world where everyone's screaming to be noticed, you stand out by being quiet enough to observe. That kind of presence is irresistible. The compliments I'm talking about don't need to be long or poetic or overly smooth. In fact, the simpler they are, the more powerful they become. It's not about crafting lines, it's about noticing truths. A quick, "There's something peaceful about the way you move through a room," can have more impact than 100. "You're so hot," comments. One reaches her ego, the other reaches her core. And when she feels seen in that way, that's when her guard drops. That's when the attraction becomes emotional, not just physical. That's when the game changes. Because now, you're not just another guy giving her attention. You've become the man who understands her. And trust me, that kind of man she won't stop thinking about. So, if you want to give a compliment that truly lands, don't just describe what you see. Reflect what you feel in her presence. That's where the magic begins. Because the truth is, the most powerful compliment is the one she didn't even know she was waiting to hear. Let's talk about the first forbidden compliment, the one I like to call the mind reader. And no, this doesn't mean pretending you've got psychic abilities, or that you know her entire life story after 2 conversations. What I'm talking about is the compliment that shows her you've picked up on something deeper, something personal, something she never expected anyone would notice, let alone say out loud. Picture this. You're having a casual chat, nothing intense. Maybe you're just getting to know her. And then, mid-conversation, you say something like, "You strike me as someone who can't stand small talk. You'd rather connect on a real level." Now pause right there. That's not just a compliment. That's a recognition, a reflection. You're telling her, "I see you." And do you know how rare that is? Most men are out here throwing compliments at women like darts in the dark, hoping something sticks. But when you observe, when you listen, when you pick up on her energy, her rhythm, her pauses, that's when you can speak to who she is, not just what she shows. That's when your words begin to touch a part of her that doesn't get touched often, her mind. You see, when a woman hears, "You look nice today," it's nice, sure. But when she hears, "I get the feeling you're the kind of person who needs to trust deeply before letting anyone in," that hits different. That's not a line. It's an insight. And the moment you say it, her brain starts turning. How does he know that? Who else has ever noticed that about me? It creates this silent intrigue, this curiosity about you. Because suddenly, she's not just wondering if she likes you. She's wondering how you picked up on something that others always seem to miss. But here's the thing. These compliments only work when they come from presence. You. You can't fake it. You can't force it. You have to actually pay attention. Watch her body language. Notice how she hesitates before answering certain questions. Pick up on the way she lights up when she talks about something she loves, or how her tone changes when she's guarded. That's the data. That's where you pull from. And when you speak what you see, gently, naturally, without trying to impress, you instantly elevate the conversation. It's no longer about surface-level flirtation. You're operating on a completely different frequency, one that feels emotionally intelligent, one that feels mature, one that tells her you're not here to just see her. You're here to understand her. Let's be honest. A lot of women walk through this world having to wear a kind of armor. Compliments that touch their looks, they've built walls around that. But a compliment that touches her mind, her values, her emotional intelligence, that catches her off guard, it disarms her in the best way. Now, does that mean you throw mind reader compliments out constantly like you're some romantic therapist? No. The power is in how rare and precise they are. You say one thing that hits home and it sits with her. She thinks about it later. She replays it in her mind. She tells her friends, "He said something and I can't stop thinking about it." My question for you is this. Do you think that women think about women? Is it? And when you can live rent-free in someone's mind without even trying, that's when you know you've got something special. So if you want to stand out, stop telling her what she already knows about herself. Start telling her what she doesn't expect you to see, because the moment she feels truly understood, she'll never forget who made her feel that way. Let's move into the second forbidden compliment. This one's what I call the power compliment. It's not flashy, it's not loud, and it's definitely not about hype. It's about recognizing the kind of energy a woman carries without making it about her looks. You see, this kind of compliment touches on something women often work hard to protect, their inner strength. And no, this isn't about calling her a strong, independent woman. That's become so overused it barely registers anymore. What I'm talking about is a compliment that acknowledges a woman's presence, her confidence, her quiet leadership. It's the way she walks into a room without saying a word and still commands attention. That's power. And when you notice it and speak to it, it does something to her. Let's say you're out with her, maybe grabbing coffee or just talking, and you say something like, "You know, you have this quiet confidence that's hard to ignore. It's like you're not trying to impress anyone, and that's actually impressive. What you've just done there is shine a light on something most people feel around her, but never actually say, and that's what makes it forbidden. Most men don't go there. Either they don't notice it, or they're too focused on complimenting what's safe and easy, her outfit, her hair, her smile. But when you point out her vibe, her essence, that strength she wears so naturally, that hits completely different. Here's the truth. Women spend a lot of time curating how they come across to the world, and a lot of them lead with softness, charm, maybe even mystery. But underneath that is a backbone of resilience. And when you acknowledge that part of her, not just the polished surface, you make her feel seen on a level most men never reach. What's powerful about this kind of compliment is that it's not about boosting her ego. It's about validating something that is often invisible. You're saying, "I see the way you hold yourself. I see the quiet strength behind your eyes. I see that you don't need to be loud to be powerful." That's intimacy. That's depth. And it makes her feel like you've already stepped past the small talk and into who she really is. And let's not ignore this either. When a woman feels strong, she still wants to feel feminine. When you give her a compliment that blends both, acknowledging her power while still making her feel desired, it creates this beautiful tension. You're telling her, "I respect you, but I'm also drawn to you." That balance is rare, and it's what makes your presence memorable. Now here's what makes this so attractive. You're not just saying nice things. You're showing that you are a man who can recognize strength because you hold strength yourself. Insecurity doesn't see power in others. It fears it. But when you're grounded in who you are, you don't get intimidated by a woman's confidence. You celebrate it. The more you lean into it, and in doing so, you show her that she doesn't have to dim herself around you. She doesn't have to shrink to make you feel big. That alone, that makes you irresistible. So don't be afraid to compliment a woman's power, not in a cheesy, overly dramatic way, but in those small, precise moments where she least expects it. When you tell her, "You have this way of owning the room without needing to say much," it's magnetic. You're giving her something she didn't even know she needed to hear, and believe me, that is the kind of compliment that lingers. Now, let's get into the third forbidden compliment, and I'll be honest, this one's dangerously effective when done right. I like to call it the effortless allure compliment, because sometimes the most attractive thing about a woman isn't what she's trying to show, it's what she doesn't even realize she's giving off. It's that natural magnetism, that effortless vibe that doesn't scream for attention, but still pulls you in. Think about it. There are women who walk into a space without needing to say a word, and something about them just sticks with you. It's not the dress, it's not the makeup, it's something underneath all of that. A way she moves, a softness in her energy, a confidence in how she exists. That's what this compliment is all about. So imagine you're talking to her and you say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself, it's magnetic." Like, you're not even trying, but it's just there. That right there, that's the compliment she doesn't see coming, because you're not focusing on anything she's deliberately put out there. You're pointing to something she didn't even know was visible, and that instantly flips a switch inside her. You see, most compliments focus on effort. You look great in that dress. You've got beautiful hair. And those are fine, but they only recognize what's intentional. The forbidden compliment touches what's accidental. It tells her, even when you're not trying, I still notice you. That's a whole different level of validation, because here's what a lot of people miss. Many women don't always feel attractive when they're not on, when they're not dressed up or made up, when they're just being themselves. But when you look her in the eye and tell her, there's something about the way you move that's just captivating, you make her feel beautiful without effort. That is the compliment that stays with her long after the moment passes. And you don't need to make it overly poetic or smooth. In fact, the more sincere and relaxed it is, the more powerful it becomes. It's like saying, "You're magnetic and I don't think you even realize it." That kind of observation makes her pause. It makes her feel, not just react. What this compliment also does on a deeper level is allow her to lean into her feminine energy. You're telling her she doesn't need to try hard to be noticed. Her natural energy is enough. And in a world where so many women feel the pressure to constantly do more, look better, try harder, this kind of compliment feels like a breath of fresh air. It gives her permission to just be, and that's rare. Now let's flip it for a second. Why is this compliment so forbidden? Because most people are afraid to say it. They're scared it'll come off as too intense, or maybe they don't even notice that kind of subtle beauty. But when you do, when you say it calmly with presence, it doesn't come off as needy or over the top. It comes off as confident, as someone who knows how to see beauty in its rawest form. And when you make a woman feel desirable in a way that has nothing to do with effort, she doesn't forget that. She starts to associate your presence with feeling truly feminine, soft, wanted, not for what she tries to be, but for what she is. So, if you really want to give a compliment that lingers in her mind, don't just focus on what she's doing. Focus on what she doesn't realize she's already giving off, that unintentional allure. That's where the real magic lives. Let's take a step back for a second and really ask ourselves, why are these compliments considered forbidden in the first place? It's not because they're offensive. It's not because they're inappropriate. It's because they go deeper. They bypass the surface level flattery and dive into places most people are either too afraid, too distracted, or too unaware to go. And the truth is, most men avoid these compliments because they require something most people aren't used to bringing to the table: presence, awareness, and emotional courage. You see, it's easy to hand out compliments that are safe. You look nice. That's a pretty dress. Love your smile. No one's going to reject that, right? It's non-threatening. But you know what else it is? Forgettable. Because anyone can say those things. Anyone can notice what's obvious. But it takes a man who's really tuned in to say, "There's something about the way you carry yourself that feels powerful." Or, "I get the sense you've had to protect your peace, and you don't give just anyone access to it." Now, that takes a little bit of boldness, and that's exactly why most men stay away from it, because these kinds of compliments feel risky. They're not rehearsed. They're not one size fits all. You have to actually mean them. You have to be present enough to notice her energy, her vibe, her subtle ways of being. And when you speak to those things, you're no longer playing it safe. You're stepping into something that feels real, and real makes people nervous. But here's what you have to understand. Forbidden doesn't mean wrong. It means rare. It means most people don't go there. It means it's not always comfortable, but that's what makes it powerful. When you give a woman a compliment that's rooted in depth, in truth, in genuine attention, you're not just boosting her ego. You're creating intimacy. You're giving her a moment of connection she wasn't expecting. And those are the moments that leave a mark. There's also this quiet fear in a lot of people, especially men, that going too deep too soon might come across as too much. Like, what if she thinks I'm trying too hard? Or, what if she doesn't take it the right way? And while I get it, we've all been conditioned to play it cool. The truth is, confidence is not about saying the right thing. It's about being willing to say the real thing, with calm, grounded energy. That's what women respond to, because think about it. How many people are out here giving each other empty praise every day? Compliments with no weight behind them, no presence, no real attention. So when you break that pattern and actually say something true, even if it's unexpected, that's what sets you apart. These forbidden compliments work because they interrupt the usual rhythm. They catch her off guard in the best way. She's expecting the same compliments she's heard before, but then you hit her with something that feels personal, something that makes her think, something that makes her feel. And now, you're not just another voice in the crowd. You're the one who made her pause. So yes, these compliments might not be the ones people use every day. They might not be found in some dating app template, but that's exactly why they're so effective. They're real, they're rare, and they make a woman feel like you're not just looking at her, you're seeing her. Because in a world full of noise, the rarest thing you can offer someone is attention that goes beyond the obvious. And when you do that, when you speak what most people don't even notice, that's when you stop being ordinary and start becoming unforgettable. So now that we've unpacked these 3 forbidden compliments, the ones that speak to her mind, her power, and her effortless allure, let's bring it all together and talk about why they have such a deep, lasting impact. Because here's the thing, it's not just about what you say, it's about what you activate in her when you say it. Most people don't realize this, but attraction, real attraction, isn't built on grand gestures or smooth lines. It's built on emotion. It's built on how you make someone feel about themselves in your presence. And these compliments, the kind we've been talking about, are so powerful because they shift the way a woman sees herself through your eyes. When you give her a compliment that shows you see past the surface, you're not just giving her attention. You're reflecting something she may not even be fully aware of. Maybe she doesn't realize how confident she looks when she walks into a room. Maybe she doesn't know her calm energy is magnetic. Maybe she's so used to people focusing on her appearance that it actually surprises her when someone sees her inner world instead. That surprise, that pause, that moment where she goes, "Wait, what did he just say?" That's what creates the shift. That's what makes you unforgettable, because now you're not just another guy giving her compliments. You're the one who made her feel something deeper, and that's what sticks. That's what lingers. We've all had moments in life where someone says something to us that we remember years later, not because it was flashy or dramatic, but because it was real, it was precise. It hit a part of us that no one else had touched. And when you learn how to do that with a woman, when your compliments come from observation, presence, and genuine appreciation, you give her something that no social media, like no flirtatious message, no surface-level praise could ever compete with. This is why it matters. Because when a woman feels truly seen for her energy, her mind, her essence, her attraction to you becomes emotional. And emotional attraction is far more powerful than physical. You could be the best-looking guy in the room, but if all you offer are generic compliments, you blend into the noise. But if you can make her feel something with just a few words, you stand out, even if you never raise your voice, even if you never try too hard. And here's the beautiful part. You don't have to say much. You just have to say what matters. The right compliment delivered at the right moment with the right energy can change the entire dynamic between you and her. She starts to feel safe around you, curious about you, drawn to you in a way that's hard to explain but impossible to ignore, because what you're doing is mirroring back her value in a way that feels personal, and that changes everything. Suddenly, she's not just thinking about what kind of man you are. She's thinking about how she feels when she's around you. She's thinking about how your words made her feel, not just admired, but understood. That's the core of it all. That's the impact of these forbidden compliments. They don't just flatter, they connect. They don't just make her feel beautiful, they make her feel seen. And in a world full of people looking, the one who truly sees her, that's the one she won't forget. Because attraction may start with a glance, but it deepens with presence. And the man who knows how to speak to her soul without trying to impress, without performing, is the man who leaves a mark she can't shake. The truth is, men are not made to be husbands. Men are not made to be husbands. The truth is, men are not made to be husbands. The truth is, men are not made to be husbands. The truth is, men are not made to be husbands. The truth is, men are not made to be husbands.